Hello Year 10, Mr. Smith back again with your next new video. You're not going to believe it, I've actually managed to do it again. I just recorded this whole lesson on time-lapse again. So I'm having to do it all over again. Isn't it a good job we've all got so much time on our hands? So I realised last lesson, with all of the annoyance about me time-lapping it and not videoing it, that I didn't give you a well-being tip of the day. I'm not going to give you two today because I'm not that good, but your one for today is have a look at some podcasts, okay? Podcasts are a great way of you having a laugh, learning, hearing about something interesting, but without being attached to a screen the whole time. You just put it on, put it next to you on your phone, listen to it, and you'll find the time goes really, really quickly. I really enjoy some of the kind of true crime ones. And there's a brilliant podcast called Red Handed, which is a really, really good one. A little bit scary at times, but it's really, really good. So have a listen to those, all right? So what we're going to come on to today is we're still having a look at tropical storms, but we're going to have a look in a bit more detail today at kind of the main effects and responses to them. So what you're going to need today is your book, a pen and a ruler, some highlighters as well, your phone, Hurricane Irma tracking sheet. You will want to print this. It's quite difficult to do this diagram without printing it. Your Diamond 9 template is up to you, might make it easier for some of you to structure, and access to Teams, because the second half of this lesson is going to be a little bit different to normal. So I would like you to be able to get on Teams, and I'm going to talk you through at the end exactly how to do it, okay? So as per normal, we will start off with a jog your memory. So here are 3 questions. Why are tropical storms seasonal? Which area of the UK have cooler summer temperatures and why? And which type of shopping area would you expect to find and then there'll be an option there that you have to choose a shopping area for. So pause your phones, scan the QR code and have a go. Okay, hopefully you've had a go at that. I just checked that I wasn't time-lapsing, which is why I was running back over. I am recording this time, I can breathe. So your title for today is Effects and Responses to Tropical Storms. So can you please write that out? So as I say, we're going to be having a look at the general effects of storms. So we're not necessarily going to be looking at a particular storm, but what could happen during a storm. And same for responses. We're going to have a look at how the responses might differ in a high-income country and in a low-income country. But we are going to start off today by recapping a key geographical skill that you will have done in Year 8, you might have done in Year 9, but we're coming back to it again now, okay? So write your title in, Effects and Responses to Tropical Storms, underline it, and then we will get started. So, I'm on my knees for this one. A key skill that we're going to be recapping today is how to do longitudes and latitudes. So longitudes and latitudes are a really, really brilliant way of being able to pinpoint an exact place on Earth. So some of you will remember my story I told you in Year 8 about when longitudes and latitudes really saved my life, actually, when I was on the sinking ship in Indonesia. I'm sure you've all heard about this story before. The boat was sinking. My boat guides didn't speak a word of English, and we finally managed to get hold of search and rescue when the boat had taken on a lot of water, and they asked us where you are, and I was able to tell them the exact longitude and latitude that meant they sent rescue boats out to save us, okay? So this is a really important skill to learn, so we are going to recap how to do it. So what we've got on the board here is a range of locations that Hurricane Irma was in on certain days. Now, Hurricane Irma was a big tropical storm a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, that caused quite a lot of destruction in the US. So we're going to have a look at the pathway that Tropical Irma took. So if you remember rightly, for our longitudes and latitudes, what we always have is going up the side of our map, we have how far north or south of the equator it places. So it's measured in degrees, how many degrees north or south of the equator is this place. We then, along the bottom, will have how far east or west a place is of the Greenwich meridian. So this then tells us how far along it is. So it's kind of similar to when you've done coordinates and 4-figure grid references before, but you need to find these numbers. So our first one, for example, is 17 degrees north and 35 degrees west. So 17 degrees, we're going to go 10, 15, 20. We know it's between 15 and 20 then, so somewhere along this line here. We then know it is 35 degrees west, so we've actually got that directly on the line, so we would put our first point there. Our second one is 18 degrees north, so it's going to be slightly higher north than our first point, and 37 degrees west, so kind of 2 along from our first one to the west, so it will be about there. And then our third one, the last one I'm going to do with you, is now, we are still on 18 degrees north, so we're on the same line here, but it's moved along a bit. It's now 42 degrees west, so we've moved along 5 points. So our third one is going to be about there. And then once you have drawn them all on, you will join it up with a curved line, not a straight line, but a curved line. So pause your screens, have a look at all of the longitudes and latitudes and map out this onto your sheets. Okay, so this is what it should look like. So bam, 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 there we go, nearly there. Do, 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 do. And that's our track of Hurricane Irma. This is the route that it took. So what we're going to have a go at now is describing that route. So where did it go? Where did it start? Where did it end? Where did it pass through? So what I'd like you to do is copy out this gap fill into your books. And where we've got our 4 blanks, I want you to fill them in with one of these 8 words. So bear in mind, you're only going to be using half of these words. You might want an atlas in front of you or a world map or a map of the Caribbean, just so you can kind of pinpoint exactly where these places are. But if you look closely, the information is all on your maps. So pause your screens and have a go at that. I will talk through these quickly with you. So Hurricane Irma begins in the Atlantic Sea at 17 degrees north, 35 degrees west. It then moves west towards the Caribbean Sea. It tracks slightly east before moving west again, moving through Cuba. So we can see that it goes directly through the country of Cuba there. It then travels north towards the United States before it loses its energy in South Carolina. We can see a little SC there, and you should know that that's South Carolina. It's clearly not California, okay? So this is our track of Hurricane Irma. This is the route that it took. So what we're going to have a think about now are some of the effects. So what effects would we expect there to be of a tropical storm? As I said, this is nothing to do with a particular storm. This is not to do with Irma. This is the general effects that could happen from a tropical storm. So there's a few things I want you to do. So firstly, I want you to read through these 6 here, and then I would like you to add 3 more effects that you think occur during a tropical storm. One that's social, one that's economic, and one that's environmental. So what you should then have is 9 effects. And on your diamond 9s, I want you to rank those 9 effects. So the thing that you think is the most significant, has the most impact, goes at the top of your diamond 9. And the thing that you think, meh, not the end of the world, you put at the bottom of your diamond 9. I would also like you just to code them as social, economic, and environmental. So maybe with a highlighter, 3 different colours, sort them into social, economic, environmental. There is no right or wrong answer on this one necessarily. I just want you to think, what do you think is really significant? What is not so significant? Okay, now you've done that, we're going to have a look at 3 of them in particular, and we're going to have a think about what the actual impact of that thing is. So I've chosen 3, and one of them's social, one of them's economic, one of them's environmental. And I want you to copy these into your books, and I want you to talk about how this is an impact. So I want you to fully snowball that point. So I'm going to do one with you now, and I'm going to tell you, the first one, aircraft grounded, is our economic reason. So aircrafts are grounded. This leads to passengers not being able to travel to their desired destination, resulting in large compensation claims, meaning the airlines could lose some income. So that is me explaining and elaborating how aircraft being grounded is an economic impact. So I want you to have a go at all 3 of these in your books, fully elaborating them. Okay, we're going to move on now to our methods of prediction. So how you might be able to predict a tropical storm and prepare for it. So what we're going to do is I want us to have a think of this in terms of high income countries versus low income countries, because obviously they have very different ways that they are able to manage and deal with an event like this. So in your books, I'd like you to draw a T-bar table with hic and lick at the top. And I want you to read through these different methods, and I want you to think about whether they are more likely in a hic or a lick. Now, you probably can look at these and think Hicks will do all of them, which is true. So what I want you to do first is start with your licks column. And in your licks column, I want you to put the ones that you think are only capable of licks. So, sorry, the ones that they are capable of. So Yes, Hicks can do all of them, but I want you to put the ones in here that just Licks can do, the ones that they can just about manage. So sort these into Hicks and Licks. Now remember, Hicks have more money, more income, which means they have better technology, which means they're probably going to have the more advanced systems, okay? So put these into here for me, okay? So your table should look a little bit like this. So our Licks will be able to stockpile aid from emergencies. So remember, it's short-term emergency aid that they might be getting from NGOs or from other governments. So they might be getting food, they might be getting water, shelter, medical care, but it's quite a short-term response and it's not come from their own central government. They probably also have access to sandbags and they're able to board up their windows, because bear in mind that for a lot of people in low-income countries, their house is all they have. So if a tropical storm's coming, they ain't leaving it. They're going to stay in their house and they're going to try and protect it as best as possible. And they will probably have some kind of weather forecast, because the other countries, like the high income countries, they've obviously got the technology to do the weather predictions, but they're not animals. They're going to share it. If they know a tropical storm is going to come through the Caribbean Sea, they will let the Caribbean islands know. So there will be some forecasting. But then Hicks have obviously got the much more advanced technology. So they're able to use social media to inform people. So sending out message alert texts. People are able to take out insurance on their houses. There's a national emergency fund. So being able to, the government having a large pot of money that is there just in case. Having satellite images to be able to track it. Building seawalls along vulnerable coastlines. Hurricane aircraft that can get people out of a place if there is a hurricane coming. Building storm shelters, computer forecasting models, and ocean temperature recorders. So being able to measure the temperature and be like, oh, it's quite warm, maybe there's going to be a storm. Okay, so as we can see, Hicks have got a lot more that they are able to do than Licks. Licks is quite practical stuff. They can protect their houses, they can get some food, whereas the Hicks are much more able to predict and prepare in advance of a storm. Which leads us on to the last bit of the lesson. So as I mentioned, it's going to be a little bit different today. Now, I can't say for definite what Miss Childs and Miss Middleditch are doing in theirs, but this is 100% what I want my classes to do. So we're going to finish today by having a look at an 8-mark question. And this 8-mark question, you are going to be submitting on Teams. You are not going to be emailing it to me. You are going to be submitting it on Teams. And I will show you in a minute how to do that. But before we do, we're going to talk through the question and we're going to plan it together. So the question is, tropical storms cause more problems in Licks than Hicks. To what extent do you agree with this statement? So an 8-mark question is quite a straightforward structure for and against on this one. But what we also have got are some resources. So we've got 2 different storms here, Hurricane Matthew that hit the USA and Cyclone Nargis that hit Myanmar. So obviously we've got our high income country, we've got our low income country. And then we've got number of deaths, number of homeless, economic costs. So you can start to compare these different tropical storms. But what you've also got are 2 images. So you've got images of Hurricane Matthew and the damage it did to the buildings and houses. And then we've got images of the damage to houses in Cyclone Nargis. So what I really want you to do is pick apart these 2 pictures. What can you see is different about the houses? Are they well built in one? Are they more structured? Are there ones where actually they could just do a little bit of repair and the houses are fine? Or is there one where the houses have been completely destroyed and they need to be completely rebuilt? So this is going to be on Teams, so I'm not going to pause it. You've got this in front of you when you complete it on Teams. So when we plan this, we've done these plans before, my lot anyway, but this is how I like to structure it. So you break it down into, first of all, do you agree or disagree? Then you think about the reasons why you might agree, reasons why you might disagree, and your final justifications. So I actually leave this first one till last. Once you've kind of looked at your reasons, you can then decide, okay, maybe I agree more or maybe I disagree. So in terms of reasons you might agree and say, yeah, definitely worse in Licks, is there's a higher loss of lives, the houses are not built to a high standard, and they have very little prediction methods. Whereas in Hicks, we can see that we might say, I disagree, it's also bad in Hicks because the economic impact is a lot higher and they're more likely to be losing lots of infrastructure and lots of services. So once you've had a look at these, and you can use my points because I want to see how you structure your answer, you then need to decide, okay, do I agree or do I disagree? And you need to say how much you agree or disagree. So either I 80% agree, I 70% disagree. You need to decide which side of the fence you are on. And then at the end, you need to do your justification, which is your overall why you agreed or disagreed. So you might go down the route of, actually, we can see in HICS they're more economic impacts, whereas LICs are more social. And you might say you think that economic losses are more long-term than social, so actually you think HICS are worse off. Or you might say that the social losses are more long-term, depends where you stand on it, but you need to be able to explain why. So you might say the social losses are more long-term, so actually I think it's worse in LICs. You could also look at it in terms of other things, but I think economic social is quite a good way to break this down. So what I'd like to do is, I would like you to pause the screen now, and I want you to make a copy of this in your books. I want you to have a copy of this plan so that when you are revising in Year 11, you can look back and see what a good plan looks like. Now, the other key thing I want you to remember when you are writing your response is that you need to make sure you P every point. There is no point, there's no point in you making a point if you can't explain that point, okay? You have to be able to fully elaborate and fully explain that point to me. You also need to be saying whether your point is social, whether it's economic, or whether it's environmental. But you also might want to say whether it's short-term or long-term. And finally, you might want to include some real-life evidence. So you could refer to our resources, you should refer to our resources, or you might even refer to some other knowledge you might have of storms, but I'd probably stick close to the resources for now, okay? So this is what you should be including in your 8 mark, and now I'm going to show you how you should be submitting it. So as I said, I want you to do it on Teams. I don't want you to be emailing me. I do not want to get 56 emails from all of my Year 10s with, here's my answer, sir. I want it all on Teams, all in one place, so I can give you feedback easily on it. So, what you need to do is open up your emails on a web browser, on a computer preferably. Once you've done that, you'll find in this top corner, the waffle it's called, these little dots, it's called the waffle. And I want you to click on that and you get this drop down of different apps you can use, and you are going to click on Teams. Once you have clicked on Teams, you will then get a page that looks like this with all of your different subjects. And I want you to look for the one which has GY at the end. So if you're in the 10X group, this is what yours will look like. If you're in 10Y, it will be 10Y, GY2. So you're looking for the one that has GY at the end. You click on that and you'll come up with your home page for that team. And what you are then going to click on along this top bar is assignments. So you click on this assignments button and it will come up with all assignments I've set. So you'll see that there is a decision maker, the one we did the other week. And you'll also see that it says Tropical Storms 8 mark, okay? This will only be available from the Friday that I send this email out, the day that I send the email out. So you won't be able to click on this before. So it comes live on the 24th of April. I've scheduled it. I've really learned how to work with Teams. And when you click on it, you will then have a Word document come up. And on that Word document, there is all of those resources, there's the question, and then it says, please type here, because I want you to type it directly on that Word document. And in order to do that, you have to click one of two things. So you either, some people's looks different, this is where it gets a bit confusing. You can either click edit document, then you get this little drop down and you click edit in browser. That then means everything you type onto that document will automatically save and I can see it. But some of you, it might be that you don't have this edit document, but there is the ... And what you then do is you click the ... and this same drop down comes and you click edit in browser. So make sure you are editing in the browser and then you can type it directly onto Teams, then I can see it. Now I've been a little bit mean, and as you can see, as I say, it's scheduled to come out on the 24th of April. It will go live at like 7 in the morning, I think I set it, but I normally send my email about 8:30 because I have a little sleep. But it will close, the deadline is midnight on the 24th, because this is part of your lesson. This is not homework, this is the lesson. So you need to, as soon as you've done these first few bits of the lesson, you now need to spend the last 15 minutes typing up this 8 marker so that I can then do it. Anyone who doesn't do it, I will find you and I will get you when social distancing's over, okay? So you've got until midnight today to complete this 8 marker. I will also attach a walkthrough of how to get onto Teams onto the email so you can see it really, really clearly. But this is not questionable, this is done today, okay? So just to recap, what you should have in your books today is the Hurricane Irma tracking sheet, the Hurricane Irma definition of the track, effects of Tropical Storm Diamond 9, the snowball of 3 of our tropical storms, responses in that table, and the plan for the 8 mark question. you should also then have your 8-mark question written on Teams. Please don't spend any longer than 15 minutes typing it. In an exam, you'd only really have 10, but because you're typing and some of you aren't particularly quick typers, I reckon about 15 is fine. But please be honest and don't spend any longer, all right? If you have any questions, please email me, but I do think I've made this quite crystal clear how you should be doing it, okay? Well done, Year 10. You're brilliant. I'll say it every time, and I will hopefully see you all very soon.